Hello everybody, we're back to math. Today we are learning parallel lines cut by a transversal. We are going through some basic vocab that deals along with this. So this should be a decently quick video. In addition, it is important to pay attention to the video today. There is a secret word that you're going to have to know to be able to get participation credit. So on that note, let us learn some math. So we have two parallel lines cut by a transversal. We have our parallel lines right here. All the points are equidistant to each other. It is now cut by a line, this line right here, which is also called a transversal. It intersects the parallel lines. At these points, creating 8 different angles. So we have specific angles that in this situation, these two lines cut by transversal create. We all know what a supplementary angle is. It's two angles added up to each other that make 180 or make a straight line. They're two adjacent angles typically that add up to 180. So our adjacent angles could be 1 and 3, 1 and 2, 2 and 4, 5 and 6, 5 and 7, 8 and 6, 7 and 8. These are angles that when you add up will equal to 180, and that will equal to that line. So if you add up angles 1 and 2, it'll equal to 180. 2. I can also, down here, I could also add angles 5 and angle 7. That will equal to 180. Those are type of angles that equal to 180. They are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 8 different pairs of supplementary angles with a parallel in the situation of a parallel lines cut by a transversal. The next type of angles we have 4 of them. We have congruent angles. These are the angles that are equal to each other. The first one I want to go talk about are vertical angles, and I want you to take the next 2 or 3 minutes to yourselves to identify some vertical angles you see in this picture of parallel lines cut by transversal. You pause it, you find it out. I will take a little break. All right, welcome back. So vertical angles, what we have right now, we have 1 and 4 vertical angles, 2 and 3 are vertical angles, 5 and 8, 7 and 6. There we have our point, we have our 2 lines right here. So vertical is the opposite angles. So 1 and 4, 2 and 3. Even down here, we have 5 and 8, and 6 and 7. Now really, I want to erase these really quick because I want you to now think. I want you to think about what other angles are congruent you think of this. If we have, again, 5 and 8, and 1 and 4 are vertical, and we have 3 and 2 and 7 and 6 are vertical angles, I want you to think about it. Since these are equidistant, these two lines, these two parallels are equidistant, and this is cut by a transversal, I want you to think about what do you know about supplementary angles. So, get you thinking. The next set of congruent angles we have, and the next set of angles situations we have with two parallel lines cut by a transversal is alternate interior angles. Alternate interior angles, the best way to find these is interior, so we look at the parallel lines. It's in between the parallel lines. And we look at the transversal, we have alternate interior. So we have 6 and 3. They're alternate. They're interior. These are interior angles, but they're alternate. So it's not 3 and 5 that are congruent. It's 3 and 6. 3 and 5 in this case is actually supplementary. We'll find that a little bit more about that. And we also have the other pair of alternate interior angles is we have 5 and 4. Because they're inside the parallel lines and they're alternate of each other. And what they mean with alternate is we have the transversal. We have an angle on one side, an angle on the other. So interior angles. So can't be on the same side. So if we pick 3, it can't be on the same side. It has to be on the other side of the angle. So 3 and 6, 5 and 4, they are congruent. So the next things we have for congruent angles are alternate exterior angles. Well, if I know that 3 and 6, if I know that 3 and 6 are congruent since of alternate interior with vertical lines, I also know that 3 is congruent to 7, and in addition, 3 is congruent to 2, and 6 is congruent to 2. We have alternate x here, which means that 7 is congruent to angle 2. Same with 8 and 1. So alternate exterior angles, it's exterior, it's outside the parallel lines. And it's pretty much the opposite sides from one another from the transversal. Now, I want you to think. On that note, I will also give you the secret word, which is watermelon. So the secret word of the day is watermelon. I'm hoping you're paying attention because we have one more set of angles. I will leave the secret word up here for the next 4 seconds. And that is it for today. Well, that's not it for that. That's it for the secret word for the day. And remember, secret word is watermelon. We still have one more type of angles. Which is not that. We have corresponding angles. Now, I want you to remember what we just did. All right, if we went back here, we know that from all that 3 and 2 is congruent and 1 and 4 are congruent. From alternate interior angles, we know that 3 and 6 is congruent. From alternate exterior angles, we know 2 and 7 are congruent. Well, I also know that 2 and 6 are congruent from just all the math gymnastics we just did. That has a name, which is corresponding angles. Corresponding angles, I always think about is we have the transversal. It's going to be on the same. It's the angles that are congruent on the same side of the transversal. Because if you looked at all the other angles we had, they were always on angles that are. All the other angles are pretty much congruent on the opposite side of the transversals. We deal with that. This time, though, we have angles that are congruent on the same side of the transversal. So we have 2 and 6. We also have, I'm going to create a box, 5 and 1 that are corresponding angles. We also have 3 and 7 corresponding angles. And we have 4 and 8 are corresponding angles. Now I want you to think really quick. We have 8 angles. When we deal with congruent angles with the situation of parallel lines cut by transversal, 4 of them, we have 2 different angles. We have 2 angles. Because again, we have our supplementary angles, 1 and 2. We're pretty much dealing with those angles always. So if you can find 2 different angle measurements with parallel lines cut by transversal, you can find all these angles. All 8 angles that deal with this. And I know you can do this. So on that note, we know what the congruent angles situation is with parallel lines cut by transversal. So on that note, have a good day, and remember the secret word.